97.3 ESPN, the locker room. Mike, wall-to-wall basketball, and this is your time of year, man.
Ooh, today's championship night.
I'm really
Boardwalk
excited.
Hall.
I'm really excited about being there tonight at Boardwalk Hall. Of course, last year St. Peter's made it all the way. St. Peter's made it to the Elite. We just spoke with the commissioner. Now let's go back to the Maserati, the Mainline Sports Hotline, and welcome in Steve Lenox, who's calling all the action for ESPN on the TV. Good morning, Steve.
Billy, Mike, thanks so much for having me on today. How are you gentlemen doing?
Steve, we're doing well, and we're really enjoying. I watched, Mike's been in attendance at Boardwalk Hall all week. I've been watching on TV, and you've been doing a great job. And but the basketball's been really good. And so as an announcer, I'm sure when the basketball's good, it makes you look good.
Absolutely, and I need all the help I can get. But yeah, it's been an interesting week this week in terms of. You've got number 1 Iona and Rick Pitino, and you've got number 11 Marist tonight for the championship game. And Marist, a team that went 6-14 in MAC play during the regular season, over 20 regular season games, had lost 5 in a row, 8 of 9, won 2 straight, then lost their final 2 regular season games, and really got going with a victory against Manhattan, steamrolled that into the win in the quarterfinal round against Quinnipiac, and now in the championship after winning last night against St. Peter's. And it's hard to believe a team that went 6-14, that's a number, but throw out the seeds, throw out the regular season records, they have not trailed at any point in their 3 games here in Atlantic City so far.
Wow. I know, Rick Pitino coaches Iona, and you see that draws a lot of attention. And they're going up against the number 11 of Morris, which, they don't readjust the conference.
They don't reseed.
They don't reseed. So you get a 1 against 11, but still, it's, like you said, these games have been close. Is he there?
Yeah, and Iona has taken care of their side so far with victories against Mount St. Mary's and winning last night in a very hard-fought game against a very good Niagara team out of Buffalo, New York. That game was back and forth, multiple. I think we almost had 10 lead changes in the first half alone. But with that, Iona skilled, very talented in the backcourt. They've got 2 terrific up front players with Walter Clayton, the MAC Player of the Year in the backcourt. Then you've got Nelly Jr. Joseph and Osborne Shema, 2 big guys. And for Rick Pitino, he's got another 7-footer. It goes down on the 3-point line and hoists up the threes. And Shema hit one early last, came out of the game when maybe he had a defensive lap, but they've got a lot of options with this Gales team.
So, Steve, I was actually sitting next to you the last couple of nights and just listening into the knowledge that you have on these teams. It's just to the number of persons sitting at home, Billy, just listening.
Right.
The paperwork that they have in front of them, and then they know the teams inside out. They know the guys that are sitting, on the bench that may play at the 8th, 9th position. So just kudos to you, Steve, for all that. But getting back to the game tonight.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Getting back to the game tonight, from what I saw this week, it just seems to me that Iona's got this momentum going. And I saw it starting, and I said it in the press conference last night. Like you said, last night's game was back and forth. And about the 6-minute mark, it was a 5-point game. And then we hit a big 3, the 7-footer, I forget his name. He hits a big 3. They come down, they throw the ball out of bounds, all within 10 seconds. Then we come down, they foul Jenkins, he makes 2 foul shots. You go up by 10, and you could just feel the momentum swinging in Iona's favor. And then from that point on, I really thought the game was over.
Yeah, I think with Iona, you're always expecting that big run, and like you said, in the late stages of a game, that knockout blow. And Tim Welsh said it with me last night, my partner and former Iona coach. You almost play. You get to this time of year, especially, you play 4-minute games. You play to every media timeout. So you're expecting, is Iona going to make a run late in the first half? Are they going to make a run coming out of the locker room to start the second half? And then you've got that last 5 minutes or so, that crunch time. And that's where they ended up doing it last night against Niagara to advance to this championship game.
We're talking with Steve Lenox. He's calling all the action on ESPN, the Boardwalk Hall, the MAC tournament. Steve, you got a great voice, man. I really
got a radio voice.
Yeah, you got a radio voice for sure. Steve, Mike did say this, that preparation as an announcer. We had Mike Emmerich on right when he retired, and he was talking about the amount of preparation a play-by-play guy does. Mike just said all the papers around you, but you have them there for a backup. But you how many hours you spend in preparation for these games?
Well, you're going down this road, and I have to be completely honest here. This is true confession time. I do work with ESPN. I'm very fortunate, but I actually cover this conference, the MAC, and I do ESPN plus ESPN3. Every school does, the streaming home games, and I do it for Quinnipiac up in Connecticut. So I do have a little bit more background than I normally do. If ESPN assigned me to the American or another conference tournament, I'd have to do a heck of a lot more homework. But, I talk to college students now, and I kind of open up my documents that, I'm a compiler now. And if I need to find a note, I know where to go to it. I'm getting to the point in my life where I forget things. So I do need to write them down, and I have them in front of me at a moment's notice. But yeah, you put a lot into it, and that's a big part of it, guys. In terms of the prep, I love to prep. I love to watch games, and I tell a lot of husbands, when my wife and I go out to dinner with couples, like, yeah, I gotta watch a game tomorrow. I don't have to watch it just for the pure enjoyment of it, which I certainly get out of it. But this is work for me, guys. I got to sit on my couch and I got to watch a game or two.
That's funny you say that because I had the same thing. I mean, it's different when you want to watch a game as opposed to you have to watch a game. And obviously, as a sports fan, you really enjoy sports, but it is different. There is a different dynamic when you have to watch it as opposed to you want to watch it.
So Steve, it's Mike.
When I started doing,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And
Steve,
when I started doing TV, when I started doing TV, I didn't, you never know who's in your audience. But I had buddies of mine that were doing stuff for ESPN. They're like, hey, thanks for that tidbit. I'm going to steal that for the next time. Like, you know what? That's how we do it sometimes. You borrow.
So tonight's game, Vegas of all things has Iona as a -14, which to me, I throw that away. But let's just say that Iona is good enough to get through tonight. From the games that I've seen this week, I'm not saying we're going to have another St. Peter's like we did last year, because sometimes that just doesn't happen back to back. But the momentum that they have playing and the way they spread the floor, and with the players that they have, when you think about it, they have a player to conference on their team. They have Jenkins, who's a true point guard, and in the press conference, Ricky even said, he's my coach on the floor. Then when you have a 7-footer shooting threes like he's 6'2", been shooting them his whole life, and if he does drive, he drops it off to the other guy that's like 6'11", shooting layups. They're going to be a scary team. I don't know if they're able to win tonight, and they come in as an 11 seed or a 12 seed, whatever it is. I want to be that 5 seed that they're going to play with them right out of the gate, because they're going to be a scary team moving forward coming out of this conference.
I agree 100%, and I think it becomes momentum in the NCAA tournament, which will get underway next week. But last year you take St. Peter's and you take Shaheen Holloway. People know who Shaheen Holloway was, but did Kentucky know what Casey and Defo and Darrell Branks Jr. and Doug Eddert were bringing, and the Drame twins were bringing for the Peacocks in the NCAA tournament? St. Peter's got that momentum going immediately. They knew what they were. They were comfortable in their own skin. Once they got by Kentucky in that opening round game and that overtime win, then they win by 10 against Murray State. Then they've got Purdue, a Big Ten team, another number 3 seed. They squeak by in that one. Yes, they ran out of gas at the end, and they get knocked off by 20, I think it was, to North Carolina. But Rick Pitino, he's not going to surprise anyone. They're not going to say, oh, the Iona Gales, they play in the MAC. Who's their head coach? No, this is Rick Pitino is going to be bringing this Iona Gales team if they do get by Marist tonight, and they get there. But then again, you've got John Dunn on the other side. He's got a 6'10" kid in Patrick Gardner, who is just becoming a wonderful story. I mean, he is he started at a Division III school at Nassau Community College on Long Island in New York, then went to a Division II school, really has never had many Division I offers, falls in the lap really of Marist, and has put together just terrific numbers. Second team All-MAC during the regular season. They would also certainly be a hard out the way John does. You guys may be familiar with John from his time at St. Peter's. He's a defensive-minded coach, and that's going to travel next week in the first and second rounds of the NCAA tournament.
Well, I'll tell you, Steve, we are really looking forward to being in attendance tonight. The locker room crew will be down there at the Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City for number 1 Iona. against number 11 Marst for the MAC championship game. And, of course, you'll be broadcasting live on ESPNU in prime time.
There we go. Billy and Mike, thank you so much, and please say hello tonight.
All right, we'll see you later on, Steve, and look forward to the call.